1 minute ago, scientists confirmed what they feared most. California's sleeping giant Lassen Peak is waking up fast. Ground levels are rising by the hour, and signals from space show a dome under dangerous pressure. Unlike Hawaii's gentle flows, this volcano explodes without warning. If the magmatic trap bursts, history could repeat itself in ways we can't yet imagine. Here's how the crisis unfolded. Satellite radar images from the Sentinel-1 mission captured a striking pattern around Lassen Peak, a perfect ring of uplift rippling outward from the summit. This isn't a glitch or a snowmelt illusion. Each concentric fringe on the interferogram marks real ground movement, measured in millimeters but unmistakable in its symmetry. Over just a few weeks, the central dome has risen by up to 12 millimeters, confirmed by ground-based GPS stations anchored deep in the granite. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, analysts walked through the raw data, frame by frame, ruling out weather, snow, and satellite error. The agreement between INSAR and GPS is absolute. Lassen's surface is inflating like a pressurized lid. This kind of deformation is a classic signal of magma accumulating beneath the surface, not just shifting rock or seasonal swelling. The numbers leave little doubt. Something deep below is pushing the mountain upward, and the ground itself is keeping the score. Lassen Peak doesn't erupt like Hawaii's gentle shield volcanoes. In California's Cascade Range, volcanoes are built from sticky, silica-rich magma, thick as toothpaste and slow to move. This high-viscosity magma traps volcanic gases deep inside, building pressure over weeks or months. When the seal finally breaks, the result can be a sudden, violent release, an explosive eruption, not a slow-moving river of lava. Shield volcanoes, like those on the Big Island, produce runny basalt that flows easily and lets gases escape, so eruptions tend to be steady and predictable. But at Lassen, the dome acts as a cap, holding back a mix of steam, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. The more the magma rises, the more tightly these gases are squeezed beneath the surface. That's why even small amounts of uplift here are watched so closely. Just a few centimeters can mean the difference between quiet inflation and a sudden blast. In the Cascades, the hazard isn't just the lava, it's the pressure building below, waiting for a way out. Inside Lassen's summit, the dome acts like a pressure cap, rigid but not unbreakable. As magma rises, it brings with it a load of dissolved gases and heat. The cap responds by swelling upward and outward, storing that pressure in slow, uneven pulses. Volcanologists call this the volcano's breathing. The ground inflates, then sometimes relaxes, but with each cycle, the dome grows more brittle. When the magma is thick, full of crystals and silica, it resists movement, forcing gases to build up beneath the surface. If the cap holds, the pressure may drop back down as gases escape through cracks or old vents. But if the stress rises too quickly, or the rock weakens from repeated stretching, the dome can rupture. That's when the risk of collapse or an explosive surge becomes real. In the lab, we've modeled how just a few centimeters of uplift can tip the balance, especially when combined with sudden gas pulses. The difference between a quiet inflation and a catastrophic failure often comes down to how fast the pressure builds and how strong the dome remains. On the morning of May 22, 1915, Lassen Peak sent a column of ash nearly 30,000 feet into the sky, casting a shadow that stretched for miles. The eruption ripped open the summit, unleashing pyroclastic surges and mud flows that tore through forests and ranches. Residents in Red Bluff and Hat Creek woke to darkness at midday, their fields buried under gray ash. Roads vanished beneath thick deposits of mud and debris, cutting off entire communities. Early newspaper reports described livestock fleeing in panic, water supplies fouled by sulfurous runoff, and families forced to abandon their homes. In diaries and letters, people wrote of choking air and sick children, of crops lost for the season, and a landscape transformed overnight. Indigenous oral histories remember the mountain as uninhabitable for years, the soil poisoned, nothing growing in the devastated zone for decades. The scars left by that eruption are still visible today, a barren swath known as the devastated area, a stark reminder of what Lassen is capable of when the pressure below finds a way out. A sharp rise in volcanic gases has drawn the attention of geochemists across California. In early spring, field spectrometers recorded sulfur dioxide concentrations 4 times higher than the long-term average, with carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide climbing in tandem. These readings arrived not from old fumaroles, but from newly active cracks near the dome's base. Dr. Elena Morales, a university geochemist, compared the gas ratios to baseline logs stretching back a decade. Her lab found a distinct signature. The proportions matched those seen when magma rises close to the surface, releasing volatile gases that had been trapped deep underground. The surge in sulfur dioxide is especially telling. It points to fresh magma burning through old mineral layers, breaking down sulfur compounds that had remained stable for years. Drone surveys confirmed the chemical data, capturing patches of yellow sulfur encrusting the ground and bands of withered vegetation along the new fractures. Even pine trees on the upper slopes show stress, their needles browning in tight arcs around the vents. The chemistry, Dr. Morales explains, is a silent warning. Magma is intruding into shallow rock, and the mountain is leaking its secrets through every crack. Seismographs ring with a pattern that volcanologists call drum beats, sharp, repetitive microquakes that pulse beneath Lassen's summit. More than 50 of these tremors now register each day, each one a tiny jolt as magma and gas force their way upward through brittle rock. Dr. Isaac Tran, an independent volcanologist who spent years comparing unrest at Lassen and Mount St. Helens, studies the drumbeat signatures in detail. He explains that at St. Helens in 1980, these same rhythms signaled magma breaking through a rigid plug, leading to a catastrophic lateral blast. But Lassen's dome is both higher and more mechanically fragile, built from dense, crystal-rich rock that resists flexing. Instead of venting sideways, pressure here is more likely to force a vertical collapse or explosive surge straight up. The seismograms show not just random noise, but a steady transport of magma, each quake a record of sticky, gas-charged melt grinding past old faults. Slow-slip events along the flanks add another layer of warning, hinting at deep movement that could destabilize the entire cap. For Dr. Tran, the message is clear. These persistent tremors aren't background chatter. They're the sound of a system under strain, and every pulse counts. Park rangers and geologists hiked across the pumice fields, notebooks in hand, as drones swept low over the chaos cracks. New fractures had opened in the ground, thin, jagged lines radiating outward from the dome's base, some stretching beyond the hazard zones mapped in 2010. In the chill of early morning, thermal cameras picked up faint ribbons of heat along these cracks, even where snow lingered in the shade. Field crews measured the gaps, finding several wide enough to fit a boot, their edges stained yellow from recent gas release. These weren't just old scars reopening. Some cuts sliced through untouched soil and young pine roots, signaling that the mountain's stress was migrating outward. The presence of fresh fractures outside the established deformation area forced scientists to reconsider the risk map. If a new vent opens along one of these lines, the threat could shift toward roads, trails, or even nearby infrastructure previously thought to be out of reach. Trails leading toward Lassen's summit close in rapid sequence, with rangers posting new warnings at every major junction. County emergency managers review evacuation checklists as satellite alerts push the USGS from routine monitoring into formal escalation. The public alert system moves through its tiers: normal, advisory, watch, each step triggered by clear data, rapid dome inflation, persistent drumbeat tremor, and elevated gas readings. A spokesperson from the County Office of Emergency Services points to the evacuation grid. Drills show that once the order is given, highways can clog in less than 3.5 hours, with some routes threatened by debris flows in under an hour. Production teams run through their own checklist, confirming backup power, masks, and live update feeds, mirroring the readiness demanded of everyone in the zone. The USGS reminds residents that escalation is not a prediction, but a call to prepare. With each new closure and advisory, the response system tightens, turning scientific signals into direct instructions for safety. Over the past year, satellite data confirmed a 12-millimeter uplift at Lassen Peak summit, matching historical signals that preceded the 1915 eruption. Instruments have recorded gas emissions up to 4 times the normal baseline and over 50 daily drumbeat tremors, all verified by the USGS and independent researchers. While these signs point to renewed magma movement, the precise timing and scale of any eruption remain uncertain. Historical records show that even moderate eruptions disrupted communities for years, and new fractures now extend beyond mapped hazard zones. Official evacuation drills reveal that major highways could be cut off in under 40 minutes during a Lahar event. As of this report, the USGS has elevated alert levels and closed trails, but no eruption is confirmed.